My dad and I were closer than anyone until one night everything changed. He was the kind of father other kids envied. He never missed a school recital. He knew how I liked my tea. He taught me how to fix a flat tire and cried the day I left for college. We had our routines: Sunday morning pancakes, late night movies, our inside jokes about mom's overcooked spaghetti. He was my anchor, my protector, my blueprint for what a man should be. But sometimes, the people you trust most carry the deepest secrets. I didn't stumble across it by accident. It started with a late-night Reddit scroll, just a random post about a daughter uncovering her father's affair. I almost scrolled past. Almost. But then I saw detail. Something specific. Too specific. A name. A location. A timeline. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. I told myself it had to be. I mean, what were the odds? But curiosity can be dangerous when it knocks on a locked door you're not supposed to open. And I couldn't help myself. I made an anonymous account. I messaged the poster. We talked. They told me things I shouldn't have known, things no stranger could have guessed. And that's when the walls of my world began to tremble. I wish I could say I stopped there. I wish I had let it go. But the truth doesn't care about your wishes. I followed a breadcrumb trail that led from an anonymous username to a burner email and then to a hidden folder on my dad's laptop. I opened it. I read everything. And in that moment, I felt like I was looking at a stranger wearing my father's face. There are some things you can't unsee. Some truths that don't just break your heart, they rewire it. Because behind the man I thought I knew was a version of him I never imagined. A version he never meant for anyone, especially me, to find. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply, only to discover a version of them you never saw coming, subscribe. This story isn't just mine. It could be yours too. It started with a gut feeling. My texts were going unanswered, his stories weren't adding up, and suddenly, his phone never left his hand. I confronted him on a rainy Tuesday night in our campus parking lot. He didn't deny it. He just looked down and said, "I didn't mean for you to find out this way." That moment shattered something inside me. My first real relationship. My first heartbreak. I remember standing there in the rain, mascara running down my cheeks, feeling like a fool. I went home. Curled into bed. And opened Reddit. I don't even know what I searched, maybe how to trust again. But I ended up in a rabbit hole of cheating stories. Some made me angry. Some made me cry. Some made me feel less alone. It became a ritual. One story before bed. Like a painful bedtime story for the newly betrayed. Through it all, Dad was there. He didn't ask questions. He just showed up. Brought me coffee. Sat on the edge of my bed and let me cry into his shoulder like I was 5 again. He told me I deserved better. That a real man would never lie to me. That love meant loyalty even when no one's looking. And I believed him. He was everything my ex wasn't: dependable, thoughtful, kind. On my worst days, he'd send me cheesy gifts. On my best, he'd surprise me with flowers just because he knew I loved peonies. My friends used to say, *, your dad's the gold standard. No wonder your expectations are so high. And they were right. I never imagined that the man I admired most was keeping a secret that would wreck everything I believed about love. I kept reading Reddit. Even after the breakup pain dulled, I kept going. Some stories were obvious fakes. Others hit too close to home. But one night, I found a post that stopped me cold. It was from a user describing an affair, casual, ongoing, carefully hidden. They said they'd fallen for the wife of a close friend and were having trouble walking away. It was the details that hit me. The state. The small lake town. The ages involved. And then, a line that made my heart pause mid-beat. Sometimes we meet at the guest house when her daughter's away at school. It's our bubble, our secret. Asterisk. I blinked at the screen. My parents owned a guest house. We lived in that lake town. I was away at college. I laughed at first. Nervous. It had to be coincidence. A weird, horrible coincidence. But something in me didn't believe that. It was late. I should have been asleep. But I was scrolling, looking for distraction, for any kind of escape. Then a new post caught my eye. The title read, "He didn't know his daughter would be the one to expose him." I hesitated. But I clicked. As I read, my heart started pounding. Dates that matched vacations we took. The name of a tiny cafe where Dad and I had shared hot chocolate. A story about a forgotten birthday gift, just like the one I gave him last year. It was like someone had ripped the pages out of my own diary and posted them for strangers to read. Every little anecdote echoed my life so perfectly, it was impossible to ignore. It wasn't just a random Reddit story. It was my life. The lines between fiction and reality blurred. And the realization crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't just some stranger's betrayal. This was my father's secret. I needed proof. I couldn't just take a stranger's word. So, I started searching. My dad had left his phone behind during our last camping trip. A burner phone, old and cracked, hidden in the glove compartment of his truck. I waited until he was at work and took it. Text messages. Emails. Photos. Some were innocent. But then, there were conversations with someone named Elena. Messages filled with plans to meet. Whispered promises, secrets shared in digital silence. And then, I saw the name in the message thread. It wasn't my mom. My breath caught. The name was Elena. And suddenly, everything I thought I knew was a lie. As the pieces fell into place, memories I'd long pushed aside began flooding back, moments that suddenly felt like warning signs. I remembered those nights when Mom would disappear into the bathroom, tears quietly streaming down her face, muffled sobs behind locked doors. Dad's business trips that lasted longer than they should, vague excuses when I asked where he was going. And the nights when the house would shake with whispered arguments, low voices raised just enough to be heard, but never fully understood. I'd been a child caught in the crossfire of secrets I wasn't meant to see. But now, every one of those moments whispered a dark truth I'd never dared to believe. I approached Mom carefully, afraid to break the fragile silence that held our family together. One afternoon, I found her in the kitchen, staring blankly at the counter. "Mom," I said softly, "do you know about Dad and Elena?" Her eyes widened for a moment, then crumpled like paper in my hands. She sat down, the weight of years pressing down on her chest. "I've known for years," she whispered, voice barely audible. "I wanted to protect you. I thought if I ignored it, maybe it would stop hurting. But it didn't stop. It never stops." Then, there was the discovery that cut even deeper. I hacked into a private Reddit account I found linked to my dad, an account he'd hidden from everyone. The posts weren't just stories. They were trophies. Multiple threads detailing affairs, conquests, lies told with pride. The kind of sick bragging you'd expect from someone wanting to be admired for something despicable. He wasn't ashamed. He was boasting. One post described a secret rendezvous with a woman who thought he was a businessman, not a husband. Another bragged about escaping his wife's suspicions just by changing hotels. And as I read, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. This was about control, power. And the worst story hadn't even happened yet. My hands trembled as I read the latest post, written just days ago, describing plans so detailed, so cold. I knew it was only a matter of time before it shattered my life all over again. I thought I'd seen the worst of it. I thought I knew who he was. But then I found that post. It was buried deep, one of the earliest in his account's history. The language was cocky, the tone casual, almost proud. But this time, he used names. Not full names, just enough to hide in plain sight. But the initials matched. The timeline matched. And then he said it. It started during parent-teacher conferences. She always stayed late. Said she wanted to help my daughter, but we both knew it was about something else. I froze. Parent-teacher conferences? My teacher? The woman he described wasn't just anyone. It was my best friend's mom. No. It couldn't be. But the more I read, the clearer it became. Her signature perfume, gardenia. Her handwriting on my report card. The very same woman who failed me junior year, who told me I wasn't living up to expectations. She tanked my GPA. I nearly lost my scholarship. At the time, I blamed myself. Thought I didn't study hard enough. Thought she just didn't like me. But now I knew. She didn't just dislike me. She hated what I represented. I was his daughter. And she used her power to punish me for a secret I never even knew existed. I couldn't stop the flood of memories. Parent nights where she'd give my mom cold, tight smiles. The way she'd lean a little too close to my dad during meetings. The tension I never understood back then now hung over every memory like fog. There was that one time she bumped into me at the grocery store and asked how my dad was, a little too knowingly. I remember telling her he was out of town. She smiled. And now I realized. She already knew. I had to tell her. My best friend. We'd grown up together, sleepovers, birthday parties, study sessions. I called her, voice shaking. At first, she was silent. Then she started crying. I know, she whispered. I've known for years. Her parents had divorced during our senior year. She never told me why. But now, it all made sense. Your dad ruined everything, she said. He didn't just cheat. He tore our family apart, and he laughed about it online. And she was right. My dad didn't just betray my mom. He shattered 2 families. And he wore that destruction like a badge of honor. I thought I was angry before. But now I knew what real rage felt like. And I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. Rehearsed the words in my head 1,000 times. Do I scream? Do I cry? Do I beg for the truth, or force it out of him? For days, I walked around in a daze, carrying the weight of everything I'd uncovered. The lies. The betrayals. The humiliation. But one thing became clear, I wasn't going to keep this secret. Not anymore. So I waited for the next family dinner, a Sunday evening tradition. Mom made lasagna. Dad brought wine. And I brought the truth. We were halfway through dinner. Everyone was laughing. Smiling. I stared at him. I studied the lines in his face. And I couldn't believe how ordinary he looked. Like a man who hadn't burned 2 families to the ground. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, opened his Reddit post, the one where he detailed the affair with my best friend's mom. And I read, out loud, word for word, every sick, proud sentence. Tell them, Dad. My voice cracked. Tell them how you slept with her mom. Tell them what you wrote on Reddit. Tell them how you bragged about destroying our family. Silence. His fork clattered against the plate. Mom stared at him, mouth open, trembling. My younger brother sat frozen, tears welling up in his eyes. Dad's face turned pale, then red. It wasn't like that, he said. But no one believed him. He stood up, reached across the table. Sit down, I snapped. The room pulsed. You told the internet before you told us. You wore our pain like some kind of twisted badge. Mom stood. She didn't say a word. She just walked out. And I followed. I remember the door closing behind me. The cold air hitting my face. The weight lifting. But also, the emptiness settling in. I thought that would be it. I thought exposing him would be the end of it. But I was wrong. Because the next morning, I got a message. From someone I didn't expect. About something I never saw coming. There was still one more thing to uncover. Months passed. The silence after that night was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Dad moved out. We didn't speak. Mom filed for divorce. And me? I was left picking up the broken pieces of a childhood that suddenly felt like a lie. I started therapy. I didn't trust anyone, not men, not family, not even myself. I questioned every memory. Every hug. Every time I said, I love you. Was it ever real? But slowly, breath by breath, I tried to build something again. Something that belonged to me. One night, I opened Reddit. The same platform that exposed my father's darkness became my light. I created a new account. No name. No photo. Just truth. I told the whole story, from the cheating, to the confrontation, to the fallout. Not to hurt him, but to set myself free. To let it go, and let others know they weren't alone. I went to bed thinking no one would see it. I woke up to thousands of comments. People thanking me. Crying with me. Others telling me they'd been through the same thing. And then it got darker. A woman messaged me directly. He did the same thing to me. Years ago. I didn't even know he had a family. Then another. And another. Women with different names, different cities, different timelines. My father hadn't just betrayed one family. He'd built a trail of lies that spanned across states and decades. And then, the message that stopped my heart. It was simple. No profile picture. No details. Just a line that said, we share the same father. He cheated on my mom too. I've never had a sister before. I stared at it for hours. A half-sibling. Someone else born from the same betrayal. But also, someone who understood. Not just the anger, but the loss. And maybe, the need to find something good in all of this. I never got the fairy tale ending. My family didn't magically heal. My dad never said sorry. But I found something else. I found the courage to tell my story. I found people who listened. I found truth, and connection, and maybe even hope. And I found her. My sister. Someone I never knew I needed. The truth shattered me. But maybe, from the wreckage, I've found something real. At first, I didn't respond. What do you even say to a stranger who shares your DNA? I reread the message over and over again. We share the same father. I've never had a sister before. I thought it was a scam. Or some sick joke. But then, she sent proof. Old photos. Screenshots of her mom's emails with my dad. And then, a photo I recognized. Me. At my 8th birthday party. In the background, barely in frame. A woman I didn't know, holding a baby. That baby was her. And her mom? Was my old babysitter. The one who suddenly stopped coming around. The one my mom said moved away. But she hadn't moved. She'd had my father's child. And he paid her to disappear. She grew up a town away. Raised by a single mom. Always told her dad didn't want to be found. Until one day, scrolling Reddit late at night, she saw my post. And recognized his name. She cried reading it. Because for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. We met a week later. Same eyes. Same laugh. Same pain. But we weren't strangers. We were sisters. Bound by blood. And betrayal. I lost the father I thought I had. But I gained a sister I never knew I needed. And maybe that's the thing about truth. It wrecks. But in the ashes, it reveals what was always meant to be found. After the dinner. After the confrontation. After the truth exploded like glass in the middle of our living room. My mom didn't yell. She didn't scream. She just packed a bag. Quietly. Like a woman who had already mourned her husband years ago. Dad left that night too. And the house, the one that used to echo with music, Sunday pancakes, late-night movie laughter, went quiet. So quiet, I could hear the walls breathe. I stayed behind for a while. I thought if I stayed, I could keep something normal. Something familiar. But the silence was too loud. So I left. I moved in with Mom. It was strange at first, 2 women, both broken in completely different ways. Trying to learn how to live again. We never used to talk about emotions before. But now, we did. She told me things I never imagined. How she knew about the first affair and the second. How she stayed for me. How she hated herself for it. But mostly, how she missed the version of my dad that never really existed. A few months later, I got a message from my dad. No apology. No real explanation. Just, I miss you. Want to talk? And for a second, I wanted to. I wanted to believe there was a version of him that loved me enough to be better. But then I remembered everything. The lies. The women. The Reddit posts, like trophies in a game only he thought he was winning. One night, while cleaning out a drawer in the attic, I found a letter. Dated 10 years ago. It was from a woman. Thanking my mom for giving her back her dignity. She said she never meant to hurt anyone, that my dad had told her he was divorced. That she only found out the truth after she was already pregnant. That's when I realized. My mom had been carrying this secret for years. She had protected me from it. She let me believe I had a normal childhood. when in reality, she was holding up the illusion by herself. Eventually, I met my half-sister in person. We started small, texts, video calls, awkward jokes. And then we met halfway between our cities. I expected it to be painful. It wasn't. It was healing. We weren't just bonded by betrayal. We were linked by survival. By honesty. By a shared need to rewrite the narrative our father had left us with. Just as I thought things were starting to settle, I got another message. From a lawyer. My dad was dying. Some kind of aggressive cancer. He'd left me something in his will. A letter. I didn't want it. I didn't want more words from a man who had already said too much, and never what mattered. But I read it. And for the first time, he said he was sorry. He said he didn't expect forgiveness. But he wanted me to know he loved me. That I was the only part of his life that felt real. I don't know if I believe it. But I do know this. People can hurt you in ways they'll never understand. But healing isn't about them. It's about what you do with the truth once you finally have it. I chose to write it down. To share it. And to let it go, one word at a time. Have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything? Maybe it wasn't as public. Maybe it was never spoken aloud. But it still lives inside you. Drop your story in the comments below, someone else out there might need to hear it too. And if this story stayed with you, kindly hit subscribe.